Welcome to Which Food is Recommended for Humans Part 3, which regards the long-term effects of unhealthy living and thereby chronic inflammation. Furthermore, I will touch upon the effects of diet changes. Intake of glucose or saturated fat results in increase in free radical oxygen production O-, which initiates the production of the immune system inflammatory markers. The inflammatory markers can be measured after just one meal. And the effects after 4 weeks continuation show increased levels as predictors of insulin resistance and impaired glucose tolerance. The immune response includes platelet aggregation factors and main cytokine cascade markers TNF-alpha and IL-6. The unhealthy meal will further substitute a meal with needed micronutrients and therefore is another direct result, low concentrations of micronutrients and cellular starvation of these. This results in fewer viable cells, including the immune defense cells, lowering the defense mechanisms against pathogens and autoimmunity. Furthermore, less cytoskeleton and skin proteins. Inflammation is, in brief, the direct result of any unhealthy meal. Furthermore, initiation of an arteriosclerotic damage, which may be continued by the next meal. This effect is underlying all inflammatory diseases and thus mentioned in this presentation. Diabetes type 1 is primarily caused by a genomic change in the antigen-presenting protein of the beta cell. However, only 10% of children from type 1 parents get diabetes. It is usually initiated from early childhood, and in that case is the genetic component of the disease development more important than environmental factors. Only a fraction of people disposed for type 1 diabetes become diabetics. However, the last 20 years did type 1 incidences increase with 2 to 4% per year in most countries. Only the relation to environmental factors and BMI explains this increase. Further, it has been shown that early diagnosed type 1 diabetics have higher inflammatory profiles and lower antioxidant levels than corresponding healthy individuals. Nearby relatives with similar genetic profiles have lower levels of the inflammatory molecules interleukin-6, interleukin-15, and the recently diagnosed family member with type 1 diabetes. From here follows, then, that the initiation of type 1 diabetes is mainly caused by O- free radical induced inflammation, listed here, as well as the presence of abdominal fat in addition to the genetic predisposition, which is including the healthy. As stated in the first slide, this O-induced inflammation caused primarily by unhealthy food intake combined with low exercise. Therefore, is the inflammatory response observed in pre-diabetics, presumably caused by unhealthy living, low exercise, and the presence of abdominal fat. It is important to note that unhealthy living, by the new definitions of WHO, includes drinking orange juice for breakfast or eating sausages. Type 1 diabetes today is thereby a disease which is caused by the inherited profile supplied by unhealthy living. Type 2 diabetes is by far caused by unhealthy living combined by the presence of abdominal fat. It has a genetic component which can be substantiated by twin studies. However, it is much less important than the effect of a large BMI. Type 2 diabetics have more than 10 times higher inflammatory profiles than healthy lean people, and these markers increase already at the start of the disease. It is described as an inflammatory disease which also includes atherosclerosis and impaired glucose homeostasis. Therefore, is the inflammatory disease type 2 diabetes caused primarily by unhealthy food initiating O- production combined with lack of exercise, which could have reverted this O- production to some extent. This makes food and exercise the primary triggers. Now what about eczema or atopic dermatitis? Atopic dermatitis is a genetic predisposed skin disease which develops in early childhood. It has a dominant genetic component, changing skin protein-associated genes, typically filaggrin or inflammatory molecules related to protection of O- production. Skin damage, dryness, lipid, and micronutrient consumption affects the initiation of the disease. The amount of grown-up incidences increase worldwide and can be correlated with immune defense triggers like airway inflammation and O- production in the body. The disease phenotype is characterized by increase in the O- inflammatory markers as well as decreased antioxidant levels. Further, it can be treated by addition of antioxidants. The skin is very vulnerable to the presence of micronutrients, and the disease is therefore also characterized by malnutrition of the cells and limited production of skin protein and protecting immune defense cells. As O- production has been shown to be a primary trigger of the disease together with a genetic change, diet is a large component of the development of the disease. Psoriasis, also an inflammatory skin disease with strong genetic component. Provocation of the immune defense by allergy, particle inhalement of body O- production result in an inflammatory response which triggers the psoriasis phenotype. It is always associated with increased O- levels and the corresponding inflammatory marker profile. The disease can be treated with micronutrients in combination with inflammatory inhibitors. Psoriasis is thereby caused by O- related inflammation and lack of micronutrients or antioxidants. The prime reason, apart from genetic component, is therefore dietary O- induced response. In other words, as the other inflammatory diseases, it is mainly caused by unhealthy meals. What then happens when the diet habit is changed? Well, pre-diabetics changed diet modestly and started walking about 30 minutes per day, and this reversed their disease to healthy state and thereby avoiding development to type 2 diabetes. Atherosclerosis markers improved by dietary changes, also long-term for the people. The high levels of inflammatory markers in healthy people have been shown to decrease upon change to a healthier diet consisting of more vegetables, less sugar and fat. Which is good news, I think. So then, please refer to YouTube, Which Food is Good for Humans, Part 1 or 2, for the design and definition of healthy meals. And the most important literature used to draw these mentioned conclusions are listed on the next pages. Thank you for your attention.